next 1 hour. How can you tell that before you even get to your destination that there will not be accident on the road? So there's a need to make provision for unknown. So because of that unknown, we need to start planning small, then achieve it before we proceed to the next iteration. This is a typical diagram where we're trying to examine Agile versus waterfall. You see that in the waterfall model, what you typically have is hands-off. You analyze, you plan, you design, build, you test, then you release. Before you actualize all these 6 steps or 6 phases, the market demand would have changed. Based on the limitation of this, that's why we're advocating Agile. So what does just you build, you test, you release. So if you are to travel from this place to here before you release, and when you just travel with this region, you release your product to the market. This is the beauty of Agile framework, the Agile philosophy. It allows you to what? To quickly meet your market demand. Okay, sorry. Hope you can see hear me. My screen was hanging. Yeah. Still on the conversation of Agile versus waterfall, we want to do a clear analysis and a distinction of these two project delivery framework. So in the Agile framework, your planning is incremental. So it makes it easy for you to change the process to reflect customers' requirements. Whereas in the waterfall, which is also called otherwise called the predictive or the plan-driven approach, you would have planned all your activities from day one. Let's say you're trying to build a car. So you have to plan how to deliver that car before you even commence at all. So you're assuming at that planning phase that you already have your requirement clearly defined. The next major distinction between these two approaches, the phases. In the adaptive model, otherwise called the agile model, you deliver more rapidly and deploy a useful software customer. So we'll practicalize all this in the course of this discussion. Whereas in the plan-driven model, you have a separate phases. You have to complete the planning phase before you progress to the analysis phase, before you proceed to the design phase, before you move to the coding phase, testing and release. The next area we want to look at is change. The adaptive model is suitable when when you anticipate that your requirement will keep changing. And in real life, requirements are never static. Requirements always keep changing. So the main drawback of the waterfall model is it's difficult to accommodate change. So when you move beyond that phase, it's always difficult. And when you work in some institution that is process-driven, strictly process-driven, you would sign document, and before you even sign it, before the approving officer approve eventually, you're late to the market. That takes us to the next area, which is the most critical. Time to market. As technology people, our core objective is to deliver value, and those value have implication. Most business people always think IT people are not time conscious. They don't even know that, oh, we the business people have KPI. For those of us that have spent some years in fintech, the mainstream banks, you will know that we offer the same products. So with that in mind, the key factor is time to market. Who get there first? You can't imagine what cost of delay can cost an organization. Because on a yearly basis, at the beginning of the year, organizations set their KPI. I want to achieve X, Y, Z in terms of what? Revenue, cost reduction. So when they lay those strategic projects, as IT experts, as solutions providers, we are supposed to create an enabler for the business team to actualize those KPI. So when we're now using three months out of the calendar month to plan, when are we going to actually actualize? This reminds me, I used to have a colleague. So then when we're still using the waterfall model in one of the organizations where I work. So we started a project. This project is a strategic project for the organization to achieve its revenue target in terms of providing self-service product for customers. For 1 week, we're doing requirement gathering. The next week, we're doing requirement review. The next week, we're doing requirement validation. One day, this guy called me, like, if you take us this whole time to be mad, how long are we going to be mad for? It was so painful as a then. I didn't understand what the guy is facing. I have KPI. Can you just start showing me something? You're calling me for review. What you're showing me is document. What I want to see is working software. So time to market is of essence. So this is one of the value that the Agile framework offer. It gives you that flexibility for incremental delivery. You don't need to wait until the whole solution is ready. For instance, I'm developing a mobile application. I may need to use a case study from the financial industry, which is where I've largely operate. This solution is to enable you to do transactions from the comfort of your home. And these transactions include, but not limited to, being able to probably do a transfer, probably to your relative anywhere in the world. You want to be able to check your balance. You want to be able to maybe open additional accounts. You want to be able to print statements. These are typical features. They are all good to have, but they can't all assume the same priority. Instead of you trying to achieve all this, you probably would have asked the business guy, out of all this, which one is top priority for you? Maybe the guy is just interested at that moment. He's interested. He or she wants to be able to work, to send money to a relative or loved one. So time to market is very critical. And this is one of the benefits that the Agile framework offers us. Feedback. Feedback is very, very, very necessary in whatever we are doing. Especially when you're implementing an imaginary idea, brainwaves. I call them brainwaves. There are people who just have brainwave often. And believe me, the innovative solution we're seeing today, be it the blockchain technology, be it artificial intelligence, whatever you think, they all started in form of dream. People dream. People have brainwave. This can be done better. So most solutions that are actually yielding revenue for our organization, most game-changing technology solutions probably started as a brainwave. What that means is that they are usually in form of a black box. We don't know what is typically inside. So when you're now running a framework saying, oh, I cannot accommodate change, how do you innovate? How do you take feedback? So one of the major limitations with the waterfall model or the predictive model is that you're supposed to predict everything you're going to do from day one. So when your business owner, when your customers, when your end user come and say, oh, I want to be able to, I ask for something that will enable me move from one place to another. Initially, my thought is that I need a bike. But I think what I need at this moment is a car. You say, no, we can't take your feedback. We started already. And in real world, people always change their mind. So adopting Agile methodology offers us the benefit to accommodate changes, even at the tail end of implementation. Another area is documentation. How many of us have prepare 200 pages documentation for a HR solution. One of the most, when I say heavy documentation I prepare is when one of my organizations, I work on a HR solution. Trust me, your developers never use this documentation. You spend weeks, sometimes months, to prepare documentation that people never really use. So the Agile philosophy is saying, oh, don't put emphasis on documentation. So this takes us to one of the Agile Manifesto. Working software over comprehensive documentation. We'll discuss that in detail. Let me now jump to it. What is the cost of change? So sometimes when we refuse ourselves, we're not ready to take any change because we started already, the developers are already working, we're already investing, we're not taking change. Eventually, you end up implementing solutions that nobody uses. We call them staging. We implement solution for staging. It's just there. People really use it. And trust me, if you go back to the previous slide I showed, that's why you see that statistics on software implementation. That largely almost 60% of the features we implement never get used because people don't need them. Even the big tech company like Microsoft also have some of their features that people don't get use. How many of us use 20% features in Excel? When we're trying to implement Agile in a new environment, part of what we need to have in mind is we need to invite the Agile Manifesto. Individual and interaction over processes and tools. We're better interacting together, taking idea for each other rather than so this is our processes and this is our tools. The next Agile Manifesto is working software over comprehensive documentation. Instead of preparing BROD, SRS, or whatever name they call it, a bulky document, why don't you prepare a user story? Just get the user to tell you a story of what they want to achieve. The next manifesto is customer collaboration over what? Contract negotiation. We're not saying that there's no value in negotiation, but we're saying that customer collaboration is more superior, is more value adding than contract negotiation. The last but not the least on the Agile Manifesto is responding to changes over following a plan. The group of developers that came together in 2001 or thereabout, I think if I remember, it is somewhere in the US, I can't remember the actual state now. They're not saying that, there's no value in processes and tools. They're not saying that there's no value in having a comprehensive documentation. They are not saying that there's value in contract negotiation or following a plan. They're just saying that, oh, we have uncovering a better ways of delivering software and helping others to do it. Through this, we have come to value what? Individuals and interaction over processes and tools. We have come to value working software over comprehensive documentation. These manifestos in themselves need to be further broken down. When you look at the manifestos, and it's hard to really probably, how does this affect the customers? The manifestos are closely related or correlated to what the Agile principle. So when they came up with the developers came up with this manifesto, they further went further to research, okay, so we need a principle. What are those principles? There are 12 Agile principles. Principle number 1 is delight customers. So when we are interacting with customers, we're not telling them these are processes and tools. Won't they be glad? They will be delighted. The second principle is what? Welcome change. The third is delivering a working product frequently. That's where incremental delivery comes in. Then the fourth is what? Daily collaboration. This is where your daily stand-up comes in. Build a project. The next is build a project around motivated individuals. This is where your Agile values comes in. Value of respect, value of openness, courage. We'll get there. Have a face-to-face communication. That is the sixth. How do we have a face-to-face communication? Before remote working, Agile teams are usually sitting in the cluster environment. So we have simplicity, self-organization, reflect and adapt. Those are all principles that the Agile Manifesto offers us while we're implementing Agile as a framework. The company that want to implement Agile, we want to implement Agile. So what are characteristics of an Agile company? Well, this is very critical in everything we do. We must, first of all, know what is characteristic of an Agile company. An Agile company is an organization that is flat in structure for quick communication. An Agile company is a company that is flexible in decision making and fast moving. We want to move fast. An Agile company has a rapid response to unexpected obstacles and lead changes. An Agile company is constantly in touch with customers. You know what customers want. An Agile company have what? Continuous competitive advantage. Agile companies have to be disciplined. As you all know, learning and delivering innovative solution is the hallmark of any company that wants to survive in this century. So an agile company has to be a company that is ready to learn on a continuous basis. You have to learn how to apply new technology stack. You have to now learn how to be creative. These are characteristics of an agile company. So let's move forward to see what benefit do we gain. When we adopt agile, we're reducing our time to market. And what does that result in? Faster return on investment. Our business is growing. Our company, our employers are making more money, then there will be reward. You have what? The work is reduced because you're taking customer feedback early enough. You're not saying, oh, we have a process and procedure, go and sign all the work paper before we can change the process. So when you're taking feedback, what does that result to? It enhances collaboration. And when there's collaboration, it automatically results to stakeholder satisfaction. Your stakeholders are happy with you. When you're implementing a black box, your ability to accommodate change help you reduce risk. When you adopting Agile, one of the benefits is that you have a better chance to meet expected value. Your success rate will be high. And you can easily move from one stage and scale up. It is easy for you to sustain that success because an Agile is a mindset, not a strict process. So when you have a mindset that, oh, I want to collaborate with you, I want to take ownership, we're in this together, is a teamwork, it's easy for you to sustain those habits. So what are the steps to be taken in implementing Agile framework in a new environment? So many organizations approach Agile transformation with a naive expectation. They don't understand that training and coaching teams alone will not be enough to ensure that their Agile initiatives succeed. Agile transformation entails changes in policies, procedure, mindset, and culture. And that will be throughout the organization. It has to be felt throughout the organization. So the key success to leading change is that it's run deeper beyond humanity. This is one of the framework that is likely adopted by most organizations that is in transition, trying to apply Agile in new environment. You have to ensure that your leaders are trained. They have to be the Agile champion. You have to have Agile champion in your leadership position. So in my own experience, or where I've over experience I've gathered so far, I've come to realize that Agile is a top-down and also a bottom-up. So you have to ensure that your leaders by keying into your Agile Manifesto, your Agile philosophy. They have to be the change maker themselves, because implementing Agile in a new environment is a change. And we all know that change, people usually don't welcome change because of the fear of the unknown. Are they coming to take my job away? What will happen to my position? If you are the head of change management who normally sit down to approve change, this change cannot go to production. So when they implement Agile, what they are now saying that you have to invite agility. We're not saying, oh, let's compromise risk just because we want to move fast, but we're saying, let's work with us. Let's inculcate Agile into our daily way of doing things. Don't wait until the solution is ready before you start doing your risk assessment. What do? You inculcate risk expert as part of the Agile team. So you have to coach the organization and you have to coach the Agile team. So firstly, you have to define the strategy. That is, this entails creating a product roadmap and itemize and understand the critical success factor. Because one of the reasons why people are a bit skeptical in Agile, from my interaction with the leadership of the organization where I've been privileged, some of them don't really, they'll ask you, okay, how do I define the critical success factor? So whenever I'm privileged to work with an organization to transform or to adopt Agile, those are the steps we usually go through. We create a roadmap and itemize the things we want to do. Because as a new organization trying to implement Agile in a new environment, it is always advisable to start from somewhere. If you can put it, for lack of a better word, take some baby steps first. And the next step is to assess your organizational readiness and cultural change. You have to be able to have a pictorial image of that company you're willing to see. Then you select your pilot projects and team. You must coach your team, and you must be skeptical in the project you're selecting as a pilot project. We'll look at all this in detail. We're going to do a practical for let's adopt Agile and implement the project and see how it runs. Then you proceed to implement the change. Then last but not the least, you try to sustain that change. So what does defining strategies entail? It thinks a strategy is the most effective way to apply capability of an enterprise to reach desired set of goals and objectives. Your goals are usually very high, but you now have to be able to set objectives to actualize each of those goals. Then organizational readiness is always very key. The entire organization should be trained on Agile framework to understand the end goal, the value, and how the goal will be achieved through Agile Manifestos. I will mention earlier on. The Agile values and principles. This is to eliminate misconception. The agility culture has to be inculcated top down and bottom up. The least person in the organization needs to know that, okay, there's a new way of thinking. And the highest person in the organization needs to know there's a new way of thinking as well. So that when things get to your desk, you don't take it as business as usual. Cultural change. Change is a process of letting go of existing behavior and attitude and establishing new behavior and attitude that achieve and sustain desired business outcomes. Please excuse. So, maybe you're. So, cultural change is a process of letting go of existing behavior and attitude and establishing new behavioral and attitude that achieve and sustain a desired business goal. So to summarize all this, the shared DevOps mindset among all people needed to define, to build, to test, and deploy and release software needs to be seriously taught. Everyone needs to have that shared DevOps mindset. Then we have to continuously collaborate and communicate. How do we build the Agile mindset? Your Agile champions, you have to appoint Agile champions, coach and educate the wider community in the Agile way of working. Continuous improvement, we have to learn how to fail fast. The fail fast concept is very interesting. When you have a backlog of, let's say, 50 items, one of the criteria for selecting is to select the items that, if you're going to fail, let's quickly fail fast. So the mindset of embracing change, the champions have to coach those. People have to be taught that they have to grow in the Agile mindset like they want to grow muscle. Continuous learning, and you have to build resilience. So there are several Agile methodologies. You look at Agile as an umbrella. Under that umbrella, you have Scrum, you have XP, you have Crystal. So, but for today's discussion, we'll focus on the Scrum methodology, which is widely used in software development. It's a Scrum framework. The Scrum methodology is a framework that relies on a cross-functional team to deliver products and services in short cycles or increments. That enables continuous improvement, fast incorporation of end user, and accelerate delivery cycle. So you can see my mask is the way it comes. You always have your backlog, which is item to be worked on. Then you do your from your sprint grooming or backlog refinement, you proceed to your sprint planning session, where the team select item to be worked on. Then every 24 hours, you do your daily stand-up, weekly though. So you do your daily stand-up and you get update on what you've planned, what the team have committed to deliver. When you have this sprint planning section, you agree that we want to do X, Y, Z. A typical sprint run between 1 to 4 weeks, depends. But the beauty of Agile that you don't want to wait until after 2 weeks for you to know you're doing very well. So you're doing your inspection and your adaptation on a daily basis. At the end of your sprint, you have your sprint review session, where you showcase a possible potential shippable product. Then you don't just move to the next sprint. You need to have your sprint retrospective, where you look at yourself as a team and ask yourself the gospel questions. How are we doing? What have we done very well? What did we need to improve upon? So when you're selecting an agile team, you're looking at cross-functionality. What does cross-functionality say? The emphasis shouldn't be on your what? On your functional area. The team needs to be trained and groomed to know that the emphasis of an agile team is not your functional area, but on the work. Because agile team or agile squad are what? That is a team sport. Agile is a team sport. So even, for instance, let's use football. If you score 5 goals and your team loses, so you've not achieved anything. So you're not allowed to say, oh, I am a DB, I've done my job, or I'm an enterprise architect, I've done my job. It's not a hands-off. It's not a waterfall. So in waterfall, you have your BS, I've done requirement document, I've sent the developer. If you like, let him implement it. If you like, let him leave it. That's not the agile mindset. So each person focus on the work, not their functional area. It might be impossible to have everyone equally skilled in all functional areas, but an agile team should try to have everyone good to be able to contribute sometimes to every bit of the work on the table. So you want to have a developer who have the mindset that, okay, I can assist the tester. Vice versa. So these are the mindset. So when you're creating an agile team, you have to look at a multidisciplinary team, be it a developer, be it your tester, be it your data analyst, your business analyst, your integration designer, or your front end, whatever the person is a team. Very critical and necessary. Do not equate an agile team to your traditional roles. When you are for an agile company that is in transformation, don't automatically assume that your project managers will assume your Scrum Master role, or your business analyst automatically assume your product owner role. It doesn't work that way. People have to be trained. You have to even look at your PM. Is your project manager more knowledgeable in the product of the organization? Because in the agile world, you have a product owner, and the role there is product owner. The product owner is a content champion. Is a person who represents the business in the agile team. What that means that he or she, whether sleeping or awake, is expected to know what the market wants, in priority in which they want the order. So when you automatically assume your BA to be your product owner, and this person doesn't even have an idea of what the business wants, how is it going to survive? And most importantly, your product owner has to have authority. And it's not a shared responsibility. It is not uncommon to see a product owner who is a proxy product owner. So when you have such gap, a proxy product owner who cannot take a decision, you're still going to be running as if you're running a semi, or what some people call traja or hybrid. He or she can't take decision. Champion need to coach the team on how to bring together. If you're familiar with rugby, you know that in rugby game, they all put their heads together to win. Let's quickly talk about the product owner. The product owner is accountable for maximizing the value of the product resulting from the work of the Scrum team. The product owner is also accountable for effective product backlog management. This includes developing and explicitly communicating the product goal. Creating and clearly communicate the product backlog items. Then ordering the product backlog and ensuring that the product vision is well understood. So in summary, your product owner is the content authority. Is one man responsibility. It cannot be shared. It can't be shared between two people. That's not what the Scrum framework recommends. So for you to have a successful Agile delivery team, you must ensure that your product owner is not a proxy product owner, that he or she at any point in time understood what the business wants, can clearly articulate them, and also can equally handle prioritization, which one is most important at this point in time. So the next team member is a Scrum Master. You can see the image here. In the old waterfall, what do you have? You have a super project manager who uses power. I can do it. I believe in one thing. Use my what? That's what the person is saying. I can use my size. So people usually tell me that project managers are usually big in size, so that I can intimidate the officers. But that's not the Agile world. In the Agile world, we use our team. We don't use I. It's not like, oh, I'm responsible for delivering project end to end. No, that's not the Agile. That's anti-pattern. Is we. So the language is relatively different. So the Scrum Master role is not a command. The Agile framework, rather, sorry, it's not a command and control. So as a Scrum Master, you can't use your size, even if you are blessed, to bully your team. It's not going to work. But rather, you're supposed to be a trainer or a coach to the team. You train them on self-organization, how to become a high-performing team. You should be able to evaluate your team to say, so at this point, we are what? We are in formation stage. For those of us are familiar with the Tuckman team formation, that's you're forming, you're norming, you're storming, then you're performing. So the Scrum Master is accountable for establishing Scrum as defined in the Scrum Guide. The Scrum Master serves the organization. That is, he or she should be one of the Agile champions. The Scrum Master is accountable for our Scrum team effectiveness. The Scrum Master serves the product owner by helping the product owner, coach the product owner on how to do things like backlog refinement, user story definition. These are the role the Scrum Master play, not using size to intimidate. So when you look at this role, you look at it that they are completely opposite what a typical project manager does. A typical project manager uses the size, the position, because there's a manager in that title, project manager. Okay, I'm managing you people, you have to. But here you're a master of Scrum. That is what you are supposed to master. As a Scrum Master, the expectation is that you master Scrum the way it's supposed to be applied, or the way it is defined in the Scrum Guide, serving the organization, ensuring that everybody understands the Agile mindset, that help the team to become more a performing team, that evaluate your team at any point in time to know where there is a conflict, resolve the conflict. These are more what the role of Scrum Masters entail. Move to how do we select a pilot project, or when can we use an Agile framework as a team in transition or as an organization trying to implement Agile newly. So this is one of the best criteria I've seen so far. So as an institution that is new to Agile, it is not advisable to, you want to do Agile by hook or by force, any project, we have to pass it. If it's not Agile, no, then we cannot, no, that's not the way it works. You have to continuously look at your requirement and see where Agile is applicable. And this will help us, this will guide us on how to do this selection. So one of the first characteristics is to require, what are the characteristics of your requirement when you want to use Agile? Look at it, what are the characteristics of the requirement? When your requirements are easily understandable and defined, it doesn't mean you can't use Agile, but for requirements I don't expect to change often, don't stress yourself. You can leave it to your traditional waterfall. You can use Agile as well if you want, but it has to be rapid application development framework. Do you expect your requirement to change? Do the requirement change often? If it does, then don't use waterfall. Then Agile is the way to go. Mind you, everything you have here from type to evolutionary, these are all Agile framework. These are all fall under Agile framework. First one is the waterfall. Define it in the life cycle. Of course, if you want to use Agile, it's also applicable here. A requirement indicating a complex system to build, that is, you have a black box. Folks, if you have this kind of requirement, please do not try waterfall. Because after all, you're expected to know the end from beginning. So when you try waterfall, you're going to do something like, this is not what we want. So when you have those kind of requirement that is complex to build, that's a good candidate to apply Agile framework. The next major criteria when selecting requirements to be used of products or projects, whatever you call it, to be used for your pilot run is to look at what, based on the status of your development team. When you have development team that is less experienced on project, please do not use waterfall, because you're going to end up, instead of you to do an incremental delivery, maybe your first iteration, you invited people see it and say, okay, no, this is not what we want. You use waterfall for such project, you spend months, if not years, and only for people to come, this is not what we want. Come on. So when you have a development team that is less experienced on a particular project or product, they don't use waterfall. Those are good candidates for Agile. Less domain knowledge on new technology. The development team don't have that full domain knowledge. You can use waterfall. You can also use some of the Agile framework. Then less experience on the tools to be used. Availability of training, if required, you will see the ones to be used. You can use incremental, you can use evolutionary, you can use RAD, but don't use waterfall or spiral. The next criteria to look at when selecting a pilot project is to look at what are your user participation. Is your product owner a proxy product owner that I mentioned earlier on? Remember, your product owner is the one who wears the cap of the business in the team. Is the person available, or do you have a product owner when you need clarification is not there? So you have to look at your user involvement in all phases. So when you have a product owner that is not available, please do not use Agile in that case. Don't use iterative method. You can use prototype, maybe you develop and send it to him, look at it, review it. Is it fine? Okay. Limited user participation, you already know. When the person is not available, you can't use Agile. Users have no previous experience of participation in a similar project. You can use incremental delivery for this. Users are experts of problem domain. These are good candidates to apply some of the Agile methodology. And the next is risk associated with such projects. When a project is enhancement of the existing system, it's always advisable to use the iterative enhancement or evolutionary development. Is funding stable for the project? You can use Agile. You can also use Waterfall. You can use some of the Agile model. How reliable is your requirement? When you have a requirement that is not reliable, please use Agile. You can use incremental model of Agile. You have tight project schedule. Waterfall, no, please. That one is yes, yes, yes for all Agile, because that's where you're supposed to show your agility. We want to go to market. The business want this yesterday, but they are coming today. Man, for such project is Agile. You're going to use a reusable component. These are good for prototyping and spiral and RAD. Are you sure of what time, money? These things are scarce. Please don't use Waterfall. You can use some of the model under what? Under Agile framework. In all this, how can we as Africans leverage on the Agile philosophy to move our continent to the next level? So imagine African leveraging on Agile philosophy to embrace change and experiment. Africa is the second largest continent in the world. But while some countries are some continents are producing 2 vaccines for COVID, but there's no single one that is widely accepted that originated from Africa. Does that mean we cannot embrace change? Does that mean we cannot experiment? Let's bring this topic back home. I think Agile need to start. Africans need to start with change. Let's see how we can leverage on Agile to achieve, to move our continent to the next level. So let's look at what a Scrum event. You have your Scrum, or you have your vision rather. Let's start from there. Your backlog. Your backlog needs to be based on customer desire. Your backlog is a list of requirements that you want to start implementing or that you have to look at. The first event usually in Scrum framework is your sprint planning, or sometimes you might need to have what we call sprint goaling or backlog refinements. When you have a requirement that is not clearly defined, it is always good to have a backlog refinement. Then you move towards sprint planning, where you review the product backlog, you set your sprint goal, you estimate your sprint backlog based on your capacity. Before you commit to that sprint. So from your sprint planning meeting, which is what happens at the beginning of the sprint, you move to your daily Scrum or your daily stand-up, as they call it. It's only 15 minutes. It happens every 24 hours. And how does the event run? The Scrum Master just ensure that the daily stand-up call, the team members are available to tell the team on Scrum Master, to educate, to just share what they've been able to achieve with the team. It's only to the question, what did you work on yesterday? What did you intend to work on today? Are they impediments?
Hi, Abdulazeez.
Hi, Mercy.
Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us, with the community. We're so grateful. But we need to start rounding up for the next session so that we'll be able to admit the next speaker. So if you can start to help us round up, because we've sent you a direct message. I don't think you're seeing it. That's why I had to jump in. Is that okay?
Okay, so sorry, I wasn't on the time.
It's okay. It's okay. We appreciate you. Thank you so much, everyone, for being part of this, for making history. Thank you. Abdulazeez, just carry on. Please just be mindful. You need to round up maybe in the next 5 minutes. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. So just quickly, you have your daily stand-up. For the daily stand-up, you go to your sprint review, and you have your retrospective. So these are the rituals, what you call rituals in Scrum or Scrum events. So Scrum event are usually time box. Intend to deliver a shippable product. Don't mind me, we'll have time to take this conversation to the next level. And usually you define, instead of your typical requirement document, you have what we call a user story. We just have three basic items. You have your why, you have your who, you have your why, then you have your what. And this is your task board, which contain your user story, what you intend to do, whether it's under to do or doing or is done. And you have artifacts. What are your Scrum artifacts? What are your Scrum artifacts? Your Scrum artifacts are basically your product backlog and your sprint backlog, and they can be further broken down into your user story and your tasks. The user story is probably what the person wants. As a user, I want the car so that I can move from one place to another. And the tasks might be, first of all, design the architecture of the car, stuff like that. Then often you hear in the traditional model, people asking for a report. But in the Agile framework, you show customer working software. Don't show reports. When you show report, that's anti-pattern. Just show working software. So imagine Africa try to innovate and develop a car. This is what you typically have. You have the first iteration, you achieve this. Your second iteration, you achieve this. Your third iteration, you achieve this. Iteration is where you are. Iteration, this is where you are. So what that means, as Africans, we can use Agile philosophy and apply and start experimenting. If we don't get it right in the first iteration, we still get it right in our subsequent iteration. One of the headings we have when applying Agile is how do we select what to work on? Okay, you Agile say prioritize. How do you prioritize? You remember the slide which we saw at the beginning of this section? So when you have those kind of traffic, assume they are all projects. There's always a priority. So use the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. Another. So Scrum pillars: transparency, inspection, adaptation, and inspection. Some values, I've talked about this before. The Scrum team need to be focused, need to be open, need to be courageous, and you have to have respect. What is the idea for an Agile team? Avoid multitasking. I know a lot of us say, oh, what's your skills? I can multitask. Well, multitasking is not ideal for an Agile team. Don't do more than 8 hours in a day. That's what I do. Overworking disrupts team predictability, and over time is usually not sustainable. So please try avoid this. It's always a concept of, oh, we're doing Agile versus being Agile. But what the framework is saying that you don't do Agile. Rather say you're being Agile. It's like exercise. It's like you trying to be healthy. You can't say, oh, I'm doing healthy, but you're being healthy. So organizations should understand that doing Agile will be successful only when they are being Agile. So it is more of an attitude of how we approach to adopt Agile. A few days of training and understanding of the framework will not bring you success that you so much desire. So fear of Agile, those organizations, those teams that are fear of Agile, your managers are fear of Agile. What are they fear of? For developers, developers are fear of micromanagement. How can you call us for daily stand-up? That means you're micromanaging us. Those are the fears that people usually have. And for tracking progress, where are we? People want to see report. They still want to report that the public will not even go through it. Again, how do we see the end? Product owners are interested in end. If I have backlog of items, don't tell me what you're going to deliver in a sprint. Just tell me everything. So those are fears that people have applying Agile. In summary, what I'm advocating is this. We are in a disruptive global market. In order to continue to deliver valuable technology solutions at the speed of business so that we can keep growing and delighting every customer and ensure we're fit for the future, there's a need to embrace Agile in delivery wherever possible as being the norms rather than exception. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your time. This conversation is my LinkedIn profile. I'm always on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to me via Skype. You can reach out to me on Twitter. So,
Abdulazeez, I'm sorry, we have to end the session. Okay. I'm asking everyone to join the next session. It's starting. Please drop the link in the message in the chat. It's starting now. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. It was supposed to be for 40 minutes, but we've gone way over 40 minutes. Thank you so much. It's okay. It's nothing to apologize for. We appreciate it. Please drop the link for the next session. Thank you.